We have 3 quarterbacks inside our top 50 prospect rankings, and Garrett Nussmeier is our biggest riser.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That is Keith Sanchez. And on today's episode, we're giving you our key takeaways from our top 50 big board reveal. We're going to talk about some of the quarterbacks. How many quarterbacks in our top 50? We're going to tell you why 3 of them have made it and why 1 has pushed himself up with a strong draft cycle. We'll get into the trenches, O-line and D-line. Then at the end of the show, we're going to talk about how strong of a class is it? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it great? We're going to break that down. Keith, let's start off with the quarterbacks, the guys that make all the money, whether it's rightfully so or not. They are the creme de la creme. I'm an anti-quarterback guy on this podcast, guys. I love QBs. I'm anti-pay quarterbacks in that regard, the way we pay them. Keith, Fernando Mendoza has been the guy we already know. He's really, we don't talk about Fernando anymore at this point because it's like, it's already set in stone. He's locked in.
Unless you're other people, right?
Unless you're young.
Then it may be a discussion.
There's maybe discussion. I don't feel like being called an idiot by thousands of people online and social media. So I'll refrain from that stance that some people take. But we know where Mendoza is at. Ty Simpson's been a guy that's been in between, middle to back in around 1 for the past couple weeks. Feel like the last month or so, really since the combine, him being healthy. Garrett Nussmeier at coming in, he came in our top 50. Keith, Garrett Nussmeier came in at 41. Right, he's moved himself up. He after just a wild season this past year at LSU. Keith, what has he done in your opinion to really help push himself up the draft board?
Yeah, DP. It was a couple months ago, right? This was maybe right after the season, and I know we definitely had this discussion going into the Senior Bowl, and we said we love watching these prospects because we start to get to separate them from their in-season team narrative, right? They get the opportunity to do that. And we always discuss that. And the reason why we discuss it is for case studies like Garrett Nussmeier, right? Where this young man, let's say, finished the season. Some people are saying, we're hoping that he still had eligibility, right? Like he might need to come back because he might go in the 4th, 5th round, right? And then the Senior Bowl, the Combine, Pro Day, right? Like that opportunity to make a name for himself again. We had him at 41, I believe. Was it 41? Mm-hmm. And just putting himself in that position, DP, I think he put himself in a good situation, meaning that if you're at 41 and you're a quarterback, you definitely have an opportunity to go to back end of the 1st round. And
absolutely, for
me, and for quarterbacks, period, right? Because I think we discussed the Caleb Williams draft. So that was 2024 draft, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked landing spots, right? And we talked about how important landing spots were going to be. And we also discussed how these quarterbacks have a good opportunity to be good because of the landing spots that were available, right? Like the teams matched up with the quarterbacks that, the teams with the opportunity to draft the quarterbacks, right, at the top part of the 1st round, and the landing spots in that. And we've seen how it transpired, right? The Bo Nix success, Caleb Williams, early success, Drake May already making it to the Super Bowl, Jaden Daniels, early success, right? So we've seen a lot of quarterbacks from that draft list. What I see with Garrett Nussmeier, DP, is the opportunity for him for a team that wants him to go get him, right? And for him being at the back end of the 1st round, it would not necessarily be a bad thing because do you get a team like the Rams, right, sitting there saying like, okay, if this doesn't work out, not if it doesn't work out, if the Matthew Stafford thing we believe is going to be over in a year or 2, let's go ahead and get Garrett Nussmeier. He has the NFL pedigree, NFL bloodlines, things like that, right, with his father. That is a potential landing spot, right? There's just quite a few teams that could do it, and they're a good situation. So I think I look at it from that perspective, and I'm saying that Garrett definitely turned the tide for himself and put himself in a really good spot.
Yeah, he definitely did, right? We like I said, we've talked about Mendoza, we've talked about Ty Simpson a lot, but Garrett Wilson having such a strong draft cycle at the Senior Bowl, the command he showed, the passion, everything he showed on the field at practices. Then he played very well in the game, like you talked about. Then getting to the combine, he threw the ball well. He looked good at his pro day, and it's like, you know what? He keeps checking the boxes, and you're like, well, now people don't really like, the injury situation, and how it came out, it was, worse than what we believed and everything like that. And then you get to the point where it's like, oh, he had a bad year at LSU in 2025. Couldn't tell me. I don't remember.
Yes.
And that's what we talk about, Keith. The momentum of it's not just like in sports, like during the season for your career. It's draft cycle too. What have you done for me lately? Right? Like, people could have feel a certain way about Taylor Green from Arkansas, but if Taylor Green was out here throwing dimes at the Senior Bowl, looked great and made all his throws at the combine and at his pro day, and everything just looks fantastic, people be like, man, I want that dude on my team. Like, you completely forgot about the fact that Arkansas was such a terrible team and they had a bad record. You'd be like, man, I didn't know that. Like, what I saw during the draft cycle is what matters to me. So, like, I think that's the same thing for Nussmeier. He checked all the boxes so far. And to where now he's put the ball in the NFL's court, say, listen, like teams that need a quarterback, they too, what are you going to do, right? You think about the Arizona Cardinals and where they are. Heck, Keith, the Miami Dolphins now, and I get it. Dolphins fans, you got 7 picks inside the top 100. You probably don't want to spend one on the quarterback because you just signed a guy, right? So that may not be the case, but I think you talked about it with what was it? I forget which quarter. Oh, I think you're talking about with Ty Simpson, like the Atlanta Falcons. Like, that's the situation. We don't know what the heck it's going to look like, right? You talk about the Rams and everything. Do the Vikings, who have a second and third. They got second. They got a 49, 82, and 97. Could they on day 2? You know what I mean? Whether that's second or third round, maybe third round more so. Like you're talking about the Vikings, he can run that offense, right? So it's like, do you hedge your bet a little bit because of the situation?
And we consistently say this, the Arizona Cardinals, right? Sitting at, they have what, the 34th pick. Yeah, they got the 34th pick. That's another team.
I mean, the Steelers, right? You got the 53rd pick. Bro, the Steelers have, I didn't even realize this until now. Pick 21, second round pick 53. They got 3 third-round picks, 76, 85, and 99. Like, you have the capital to, if you want to bring in a young quarterback that can battle with a Will Howard for the QB2 spot, right? Because unfortunately for Will, I feel like this quarterback situation for Pittsburgh would be a little bit more, a little less muddy if Will didn't break that bone in his hand before preseason. Because then he would have more than, like, Aaron Rodgers, man. He's not getting a bunch of preseason reps. That would have been mostly Will Howard and Mason Rudolph or whatever it was. So Will Howard would have got a ton of preseason reps and really be able to show granted it would have been the old coaching staff, the old regime, he would have been able to put out on tape what he can do in the offense, man. So I just look at it. I think that with those picks that they have with the Steelers, yeah, Keith, if Nussmeier did fall out of round 2 and the Steelers, you're there at 76 and you've gone BPA round 1 and 2, take that flyer on Nussmeier, right? And see if him and McCarthy can make something happen. Again, I always go back to the Carolina Panthers drafted Matt Corral in round 3. Brought in, I think the very next offseason, they brought in, or the same offseason, might have been. I think it's the next offseason. They brought in both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. It was like, yep, this is not going to work. Let's go get these 2 vets. Then the very next year, they drafted Bryce Young. So it's just like, it didn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? It didn't really matter. Like, we drafted you, Matt Corral, but who cares? Like, you were a 3rd-round pick. You don't have to hit your wagon long term to it.
Yeah, no, and that's always the case, right? Like the draft picks and stuff, obviously that's investment and that's leverage for the players. And so that gives the teams more opportunity. But yeah, DP, I want to ask this, and we've never discussed this before. The Houston Texans, should they be totally out of the quarterback conversation? Should they not want to draft a young quarterback just to make sure? And I'm just asking. If it's a 3rd-round pick, and because I don't know how they feel about Davis Mills, right? And I'm assuming they are okay on him. He's still a backup there, right? They could have moved on from him. But I'm just asking from that perspective, do you want to draft a young quarterback at some point, or do you want to leave it alone altogether?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Houston, I'm leaving it alone. I'm using my picks to better this team. especially in the offensive line. This is a team that I don't really understand their roster building process. Now that they brought in, I think they made some moves. They reshored up some of the interior stuff, but I'm like, back-to-back off seasons, it's been a trend. You trade away Laramie Tunsil, you trade away Titus Howard. Next year, what you gonna do? Trade away Ariante Ursery? Like, did you just draft it? Like, I'm like, I don't know what your plan up front is. So it's like, until you figure out this offensive line, I don't think, because no matter who you put back there, even when Davis Mills was in there, like, he was just okay. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, all right, play action, get the ball out, do like risk mitigation. Let's mitigate the risk and stuff like that. So I think they should just build this team up, and let's see what CJ Stroud looks like in year 3. Is this year 3? Yeah.
Year 4, huh?
It's year 4. Is it year 4? It's year 4. Year 4. So see what he looks like in year 4. Take Dale back, stuff like that, and you run with it.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Well, DP, let's do this, man. That was the quarterbacks, right? We discussed Garrett Nussmeier and how he consistently elevates, right, through this entire draft process. And the question is, will he be a first-round draft pick? I think that'll be interesting and be a key thing to pay attention to for the draft. But let's get into these wide receivers, right, which they may be the deepest position in the entire draft. And let's talk about a couple names that were inside the top 30, right, that have opportunity to go in the first round. Let's discuss those guys on our top 50 big board for Locked On NFL Draft. Let's discuss that coming up next.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The tournament is here. One of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip-off to the final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want, game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So all you need to do to get in on the action is visit FanDuel.com today to sign up. Again, that's FanDuel.com today to sign up. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to the Discord, our group chat with me, with Keith, with other listeners of the show, and other NFL Draft fans. Tap the link in the show notes or go to LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com to join. Keith, receivers in the top 30. So I'll go ahead and let everybody know at number 10, we have Jordyn Tyson, our wide receiver 1 from Arizona State. Ohio State's Carnell Tate comes in at number 12. USC's Makai Lemon comes at 14. At 22, we have Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. At 26, we have Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana. At 30, we have Chris Brazzell II out of Tennessee. And right at 33, right outside of the top 30, we have Denzel Boston, who we just broke down his scouting report. So go check that out from yesterday if you haven't. We broke down Denzel Boston. We had Denzel Boston at 33, Keith. Well, let's talk to me, man.
That's one receivers. We had Chris Bell at 49. We had Chris Bell.
Oh, yeah. Chris Bell at 49. I could listen. If he was healthy, man, like it's not a conversation, right? It's not a conversation. Like, but the fact of the health, I'm like, yeah, we still got to get him in here. To me, it's like, I still think he comes off in round 2, Keith. I still think that, not even just round 2, but top 3. I think there's a chance top 3 rounds, you know, on day 2. I still think he might have a chance as a back end second round because I think he said he's ahead of schedule, stuff like that. They already talked about him. He would have ran a 4.3 at 6'3", 230. Yeah, man. You know, it's DK Metcalf-ish type of stuff when you talk about that type of size and speed, Keith. But when you look at these wide receivers, man, what do you want to start here with those guys we just listed off in our top 33?
Let's start at 26 with Omar Cooper Jr. Because that's entrenched right into the top 32 picks, which, you know, in that first round area. And we discussed teams for Garrett Nussmeier, right? I want, you know, have the conversation with Omar Cooper, right? Like just some teams that he can go to inside the first round. But first, I want to discuss teams, but first I want to ask you, like, how comfortable do you feel taking Omar Cooper Jr. in the first round? Because he seems like one of those late rising guys.
Yeah. No, I feel pretty comfortable. I'm not. I've seen some mocks where he's like top 15, top 16. I am not there. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's my wide receiver 4 or 5. I think he moved up to 4. I have 5. I'm sorry. He's behind Casey Concepcion, Makai Lemon, Tate, and Tyson. I think, after pick 21, and honestly, I think pick 21 makes a lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They need a receiver that can move the chains, get yak, stuff like that. He brings that to the table. I feel pretty confident with taking him back in around 1.
Looking at it, DP, the back in around 1, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Then I'm looking at the Eagles. We consistently say is interesting, right? Would he be a good fit for the Cleveland Browns with the 24th pick? And that's obviously deciding on what they do with their first round pick. But at pick 24, how would you like him in Cleveland with the Shedeur Sanders / whoever?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson situation. It's a mess over there. I would be fine with the Keys because of how Todd Monk can utilize Zay Flowers. I think he could utilize Omar Cooper Jr. just as a bigger version of that in terms of being that movement Z, get him in the slot, get him like pre-snap motions, and allow him to be the playmaker that he is. Of course, he showcases raw speed at the combine and everything. But one thing you see on tape, it's the yak, the rack, like making plays after the catch. The dense build, the play strength, the pinballing right off of would-be tacklers and different things of that nature, being able to be a good route salesman, and especially on double moves. And then the ball skills and body control are top tier for him, right? You make plays on not just on the sideline, but the play against Penn State at the back of the end zone to win that game, right? Like, that was good, not just good on Saturday, that's good on Sunday. He got 2 toes in before he got pushed as he was getting pushed out of bounds. So I think he brings that to the table. I've seen people like comp him to Deebo Samuel. I liked where you went with it. You talked about it a couple of weeks ago. In recent weeks, you said ceiling CeeDee Lamb, floor Rashee Rice. I think that's very good situation for him. And everything. I think he falls in. We're in the middle of that. You have yourself a really good player, and that's a player I'm definitely willing to take in round 1, key. But where are you at when it comes down to him?
There's a team. I like him going the back end of the first round, and I told you with that ceiling of the CeeDee Lamb conversation, that's intriguing to me. And I think if a team utilizes him in the right way, right? And I always said that with CeeDee Lamb too. And I know you remember this in our conversation we had the draft note, right? I've always called CeeDee Lamb kind of 1.5, right? Because when you're talking about like those physically dominant XY receivers, that wasn't his game. But I thought the Cowboys did a very good job, putting them in motion, movement type stuff, stacked alignment, slot, different things like that to get him open to play to his skill set. The Chicago Bears, DP, do you think should be in the market for a wide receiver and potentially a Omar Cooper-esque type of football player when we look at this top 50? And the only reason I say this is because obviously they traded away DJ Moore, right? But now their wide receiver core is Rome Odunze, Luther Burton, and then they go to Jade Walker, Khalif Raymond, Maurice Alexander, JP Richardson. And I know they have the 2 tight ends, but do you think they traded away DJ Moore to get away from not only say the salary cap issue or whatever, and then draft a young wide receiver? Like, could that be the case? And you look at an Omar Cooper Jr. at that slot for the Chicago Bears. Like, do you think that's a possibility, or you think that's kind of far off?
No, I mean, I think it fits a need for them. I think this is a team that'll probably rather wait till day 2 to get that extra receiver, because I think they were going to try to do is get the most out of Rome, get Rome back on track to how he played. I think his rookie year, keep him healthy. Ben Johnson's already been speaking this week at I think the NFL meetings or wherever it is, highly of Luther Burton. So I think that's a guy I think they're going to definitely get the ball to and everything. So I think for what him and the 2 ace traits for both of those guys is yak. I think that what they have in Luther Burton and how Ben Johnson's talking about him, he's going to let him fill that role. I could see them bringing somebody in with a day 2 pick, maybe, day 2, day 3, getting some more speed on the field, stuff like that. And I think a team that keeps, and as we get ready to move on a little bit more, a team that makes sense back around 1 is the Miami Dolphins. If they don't go pick wide receiver at pick 11, at pick 30, like, why not, bring him in and he could play that hybrid Z slot receiver role, and give Malik Willis a reliable target, a guy that can get open, a guy that's strong after the catch, a guy that has open field speed, the guy that has playmaking ability and ball skills. I think that makes a ton of sense, Keith. And just looking at the rest of these receivers, we talked about Chris Brazzell. I think that's a guy that could go anywhere from 31 to middle of the second round, right? You know what I mean?
Is there a chance he goes higher? Like I look at it from that perspective, and we know how the NFL with those type of tricks, like there's always one team, right? And all it takes is one team. Like, oh man, you ran a 4.3? What? Yeah. Like, and trying to like, so do you think he can go higher than that?
I think it's a chance. It's a lot of context that's been having to be added to his profile because Tennessee, they run that no huddle, they run that like vapor speed. And people it's been a lot of discussion about him taking plays off, and he's had to address it. Like, no,
they tell us
that's what they tell you to do. Yeah. Like, we don't huddle. So it's like, I just play. If I'm backside of the run, I chill, like, in a sense, right? So, I've seen him block. Like, I've watched him and Devin Moore go at it, in the red zone and in the run game, and they're just battling. So it's not like the dude don't block or he don't give full effort, but I definitely think he could go higher. I think it just depends on if there's a run in that top 15, right? Like, we get all three first, we get Makai, Tate, and Tyson off the board, and let's say Casey Concepcion is not too far behind that. I could see a team saying, you know what? Let me get our guy, right? Like, let me get that guy. Because the Bills at 20, what are the Bills at? 26 or whatever they are? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you brought in DJ Moore. You got Keon Coleman. But like you said, what if Keon Coleman gets traded to a team that wants him, right? Like, what if the Chiefs call and say, hey, Rashid Rice, he's got some issues going on off the field. We need more help in this receiving room. Maybe they trade for Keon Coleman and put him in that same role, which I absolutely think Keon Coleman can work as that power slot. And then you add Chris Brazzell to Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and now DJ Moore. And with 6'4", 4.37, again, as we keep telling y'all, much better route runner than any of the previous Tennessee wide receivers. Chris Brazzell with Josh Allen sounds like a perfect fit. You know what I mean? The ball, the height, the weight, the speed, the ball skills, it's all there for him, Keith.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's do this, man. We talk quarterbacks, we talk wide receivers. It's time to show those guys in the trenches some love, right? We're talking O-line, D-line, and where they came in on our newly released top 50 at Locked On NFL Draft. DP, let's have this discussion coming up next.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not just you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Let's start on the offensive line, right? Well, no, I'm sorry, defense, because we got higher rated defensive guys. So Rueben Bain Jr. out of Miami, edge, came in at number 3. Arvell Reese, linebacker / edge, came in at number 5. We have David Bailey at number 7 on the defensive line. Then we go to Kayden McDonald at at number 18 on our big board. So Kayden McDonald, big nose tackle out of Ohio State. We get Peter Woods at pick 20 at 21. I keep saying pick like it's a mock draft. At 21, we get Peter Woods. Akeem Mesidor is at 23. TJ Parker at 25. Keldrick Falk at 27. And that's just in the top 30. At 32, we got Caleb Banks out of interior defensive line out of Florida, Keith. This defensive line class as a whole, from edge to D-line, it's a talented group where you look at it and say, you know what, we can find whatever we need in a sense. If you need that pass rusher guy, it's probably going to be more Caleb Banks. The defensive, like the nose tackles, there's a lot of those. Like it's quite a bit of those in this class. And Kayden McDonald is probably the number one, not even probably, he's the number one guy in terms of stopping the run.
Yeah, and his stock for me, DP, is consistently moving up, and I think that's reflective in our rankings. I think this guy has upside to be really dominant. To be an impact player for us to look at and be like, man, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the entire NFL. I think he's going under the radar. I want to ask you this, right? And this partly because I've obviously mocked him to the Eagles a couple of times, whether or not Eagles fans are happy with me or not. But him, or would you, because there's because I always try to make these comparisons because it's always narrative driven, right? And I try to have this conversation about it. So Jordyn Davis, big name, right? Kayden McDonald, not, right? People know him in the draft space, but I feel like Jordyn Davis was more of a quote unquote household name, right? He was more popular, right? Coming out. But coming out of the draft, who would you rather? Would you rather Kayden McDonald or Jordyn Davis?
Put
you on the hot seat, DP. I know. Let's go. Go.
Yeah, you definitely in the hot seat. Oh man, love both of these guys. But if you remember me at the Draft Network, that was probably my first year. I think I was high on Jordyn Davis. You know what I mean? For me, it'd be Davis. Like Jordyn Davis. Like I haven't seen a guy do things on the defensive line, especially against the run, like Jordyn Davis. Like just that still shot. I think when he played like Vanderbilt, and he just like uses his arms and parts the Red Sea, and he's just sitting in the gap, and the running back just gets the handoff and is like, "Bro, where am I going?" You know what I mean? Like it's nowhere for me to go. Like it's like a kid thinking there's a monster under the bed, and he's actually under there. Like it's Jordyn Davis. Like I'm like, this dude, like the power and strength and everything that he has. Now, Kayden McDonald's powerful too, but I feel like Davis was just much more dominant as a player. That's why he went as high as he did and everything. And I mean, it's translated to the league, especially as of late, and that's why he got paid. But I would take Jordyn Davis slightly over Kayden McDonald. I love both of them.
I'm gonna go the other way, DP, and I think that's how much I like Kayden McDonald. As far as being a riser for me, I'm gonna go Kayden McDonald. I'm gonna give him a slight edge just from a lateral movement ability. And Jordyn Davis was a good mover, right? We know he's a good athlete. Yeah. He's one of the guys that stole the show at the combine. Yeah, just running a 4.7 at 330, 40, 50 pounds, somewhere in there. Just a lot of pounds, right? Going really fast. Just a lot of pounds. But I'm gonna go Kayden McDonald, DP, and I like him. Like I said, it's just more so about how much I like Kayden McDonald that I think there's a lot of upside there for him to be one of the true dominant interior defensive linemen. And I think he's kind of a blend. I'm not saying this in this way, right? But Jalen Carter and Jordyn Davis were different, right? They won in different ways. Jalen, in my opinion, was more of he was a quick striker, right? And functional strength, I think, was a good word. Functional strength combined with athleticism. I think if you had to put Jordyn Davis on the left side, right, of the line, you put not the defensive line, but just, like a bar, right? You put him on the left side, you put Jalen Carter on the right side. I think Kayden falls somewhere right in the middle with a decent blend of both of them. So that's why I go with Kayden McDonald. But yeah, I'm happy we have him where we have him. And he's a guy, him along with looking at, who was it? I was trying to look at the other defensive lineman. Lee Hunter. Yeah. Discussing him, DP, because we look at teams like the Buffalo Bills and things like that. If you want to discuss where he came in at, in our top 100.
Yeah, picked at 37. He came in at 37, and it's just the power, the get off, the strength, the ability to walk guys back. Similar to how you feel about, because I think the question with Jordyn Davis coming out was like, hey, what's the pass rush upside with him and everything? And I think he's been pretty solid in pass rushing. He's been great run defense as we expected. Kayden McDonald, we see flashes of the upside for him as a pass rusher. like I see the same thing with Lee Hunter. I think he could be a dominant run defender as a nose. And I think he's a situation where he's got to work on that pad level and staying low and not just popping straight up. If he had that good drive phase into the blockers and into offensive linemen, instead of just popping straight up and surrendering leverage, he's going to be able to get in the backfield as a pass rusher. And the Texans have been the team he's been linked to in round 1. And I'm like, man, you give him, being coached by D'Amico Ryans, you got Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. on opposite sides at the edge. Yeah, you're going to get your one-on-ones, big fella. On 3rd and 10, Trevor Lawrence back there, Daniel Jones back there, Cam Ward back there. You're going to have your moments to get the one-on-one. So, yeah, Keith, I like Lee Hunter a lot. Caleb Banks, I like Caleb. He had the foot injury, so I dropped him to 32. I was thinking about putting him higher. But the thing with Caleb, similar to Lee Hunter, but it's in reverse. So Lee Hunter pad level disrupts him as a pass rusher. Caleb Banks pad level disrupts him as a run defender. And in the NFL, that's the one that could be much more detrimental. Because if we can dominate the line of scrimmage and just move your 6'6", 315, 320-pound defensive tackle off the ball with ease with double teams because he can't keep his pad level low, yeah, we're gonna control the clock, right? I'm telling you now, guys, I live in the Carolinas. Watching what Carolina did to teams last year, once they went the Rico Dotto and Chuba Hubbard pairing and everything, excuse me, running the football, they dominated time of possession at times. They forced you to play within a confined time limit on offense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, DP, and I could see that's where things are going to trend. Lastly, before we wrap up, there's one of the defensive linemen I want to get into, and that's right after Kayden McDonald is Peter Woods. I just think his draft trajectory is going to go, and you've compared him to him, I think from probably from the same perspective, like draft trajectory and making a case for him to go to the Senior Bowl, but Walter Nolan. Yeah. To me, their games are very similar too. And if you look at Walter Nolan, what he was able to do last year, obviously he started off the season injured, right? So I think he only got maybe 6 games of play. And I think he had 2 sacks, right, within those 6 games and was just disruptive, right? I think it was the Dallas Cowboys game. There was a Monday night football game, right? Everybody was able to see. Might have been I think it was his first game back. And the Cardinals upset the Cowboys, and he was a big reason in that, just getting penetration, getting upfield, looking disruptive. I think Peter Woods has some of that same stuff to him. So him coming at 21 for us, DP, there, and you mentioned the Houston Texans, I think he would be world with the Houston Texans, because he's a good run defender and he gets upfield. And you talking about him plus Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, good luck trying to stop that. And if you're other NFL teams, you should be trying to prevent that by drafting Peter Woods and get him on your football team. But he's one of those players, DP, that I think may fall in a draft or, slated, right? They're slated to fall in a draft per quote unquote mock drafts, right? But if they go to these spots and you're talking about the later you get in the draft, usually that's the better teams, right? Except for you got the Miami Dolphins picking at 31, right? But the better teams back there, he's going to go into a really good situation because he's going to have help. So I think that's going to be some interesting things to see where these defensive tackles fall. But
no, I might say to close out your Peter Woods point, I think for him, he didn't help himself he should have taken the Walter Nolan path, hit the Senior Bowl, go out there and dominate, right? One-on-one block, situation like that. Then, you measure in shorter arms, shorter wingspan, stuff like that. You don't do anything at the combine. You did everything at your pro day. He wasn't fully healthy then. And he didn't help himself throughout the process, right? Avion Terrell tweaked his hamstring at the combine, didn't work at the pro day. Weeks later, came back, tried to do stuff, re-aggravated it, right? Jordyn Tyson, people gave Jordyn Tyson so much flack, Keith, for waiting until April 17th. It's like, no, I already rushed back before. I rushed back during the season. And I re-injured it. You know what I mean? So, no, I will do it on my time. And teams, rather that than you not having any testing or any routes ran or whatever, I would like to see Peter Woods kind of hold off, make sure you're healthy. And again, if you were healthy enough to go to the Senior Bowl, go out there and dominate and have a good week. But yeah, he's a guy that is slated to slip, but his game again. And Keith, because I want to have continue to flush out more of our big boy on tomorrow's show. Well, with the old line, we didn't get to running backs, edge rushers, corners, and safeties and stuff like that on tomorrow's show. But Keith, I think going back to it overall, like Peter Willis had 2 good seasons at Clemson. As a freshman, came in balling. Freshman and sophomore, Clemson did not play up to par his 3rd year, and it's like, oh well, the first 2 years don't matter. And it's like, all right, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, y'all gotta tell me how this thing plays out when you're building narratives.
Right. Yep. 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. As we just said, guys, we're going to break down more of our top 50 big board on tomorrow's show. We're going to get to the offensive line, talk about some of those running backs, how many running backs do we have in our top 50 corners, safeties, and we got it's a lot of edge rushers, man. We'll get to some more of these edge rushers and flush out some of these conversations. So on tomorrow's show, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.